since 2022. This is for me completely unacceptable behavior of Mr. Modi, and I can just be negatively surprised when I hear also that he was already engaged in the Crimea referendum, because obviously such referendums we in Austria know very well from history, because Hitler, he came with the tanks to Austria and then he organized the referendum at the barrel of the gun. And forever then we were tainted, like everybody in Austria would have joined, like to be part of Germany. Some wanted, yeah, but not everybody. And so I'm really very shocked that anybody can accept the legitimacy of a referendum after an invasion when you have already changed the military regime. So that was completely illegitimate thing to do, and it will be never recognized. And let's be very sure here in this talk, yeah, that Crimea is Ukraine and will be returned, and we will liberate that peninsula, and it will be part of Nato and the European Union member Ukraine, and that will be going much faster than many people think. And the big mistake of Modi and also of Lula of Brazil is that they align with a losing, declining genocidal power, and so they lose all the legitimacy in front of the informed Western opinion, and that will be very big hurt for them. You will see they lost a lot of credibility in the global public opinion by doing these outrageous behaviors and then arrogantly claiming some kind of past injustice on us, as if Russia would not have done so much injustice in the Cold War and also in imperial times and today. And that's the most important, what you exactly do today. And that's terrible what Russia is doing.
Yeah. So, and Mr. Fehlinger, we look at what China is today in contrast to what China was 10, 15 years ago, or even 20 years ago. China today is a monster that it's gonna take a lot of effort to properly subdue and bring in line. My concern is with India, as certain Western powers are now waking up to, but largely there is this indifference. India will become, and has ambitions to become, an aggressive, authoritarian state that has the means to disrupt peaceful, coexisting in states, in the international order, the rules-based order, or peace between nations. How do you think we should help raise awareness about this globally to Western powers and to the wider world?
Look, what we have done now in the last years, especially my friends in Ukraine, we have built up this network, or it's called the Free Nations of Ex-Russia Forum. And this is a very good forum to do. And in the framework of my visit to Washington in April, I was also approached by the Prime Minister of East Turkestan. And that's the Uyghur region of China. And we are working now together also to make a process in China between the independent nations of the future, which I call ex-China. And you, as the SIG narrative and SIG Council and all the institutions, it's very important to build legitimate organizations to really have a credibility and representativity also in the diaspora, and make a process like this independence referendum, but in the second stage also to have an exile government of Khalistan, and then to have elections for this exile government, to vote on a prime minister and a president, and to do it exactly like the East Turkestan government. They will have a congress in Washington, D.C. in the middle of November. They have invited me already. And it's very good if representatives of Khalistan go there and learn exactly how they do it. So what it means? It means that you have legitimacy, representativity, and you have also the development of credible institutions outside of, in that case, East Turkestan. And then also you work together with the other institutions. And so over time, we undermine the kind of representativity of China, because China is also a big continent with so and so many minorities and languages and regions. And there's many, many movements who would see their future much better as independent countries. Maybe in the future then also have a union of Chinese states. Yeah, it's a possibility. But there's Mongols in China, there is Manchuria, there is, of course, also Xinjiang, also that's East Turkestan, and Tibet, of course. And it would be actually very logical for India to work on that one, because China is always your big opponent, if not enemy. But no, Mr. Modi aligns with Mr. Xi in BRICS and builds an alliance with your arch enemy, claiming that the West is your enemy. I'm really very sorry for all colonial crimes which the British have done 200 years ago or 100 years ago. I'm personally very sorry, but we had actually nothing to do with it. But you cannot claim, because of the British conquest of India, somehow that we are guilty for that eternally. And the direct suppression of the people of Tibet, for example, by the Chinese communists, is somehow not to be mentioned, but you dance around with Putin and Xi. This is Mr. Modi's foreign policy today. And that's really outrageous. And I really call on all the Sikhs, don't accept that. Yeah. Please work and learn from East Turkestan and build a coalition with the people from Free Siberia, from Free East Turkestan in ex-China. And then we can work across the continent. The same is, by the way, true for Iran, another terrible terror regime which is claiming legitimacy for the Iranian people, whereas so many people there are really totally upset and they want also to form independent nations. But the process is the best, yeah, to make a forum and to develop external institutions like based on representativity, and have an exil prime minister of Khalistan, exil president. Of course, that's very difficult to do, because there will be many people competing and nobody wants to have the other to be on the top job. But this you have to achieve. Learn it from the people from East Turkestan. My friend Salih, he's on Twitter. You can follow him. And then I think this is the way, and you will convince much more people, and you will build a big case for the freedom of Khalistan.
Yeah. Jitendra, should we have some questions from others? Did the hand raise?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, there is a risk of disruptors, Indian provocateurs that may wish to, be
no problem. If
so just be
somebody
mindful
says
of that.
something bad, you just cut him off as the speaker.
Yes.
And it's no problem. You will find out very fast. So you can moderate the discussion, and I'm very happy to answer any even difficult questions.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. First, I'll have Kuljit swing, and then we'll go to Kabila. Yeah, Kuljit, go ahead, please.
Hi, everyone, and thank you once again to the speakers, and most of all, thank you, Gunther Fehlinger, for your time and for your availability. I have one question, which will break down into two basic questions. So, being an economist, you have quite the experience with regards to EU expansion and talking about NATO and being involved in all those processes, and bringing countries in that were formerly part of the Soviet Union and working to align them with Western powers. What do you think? Because a lot of the rhetoric and the propaganda about Khalistan surrounds it being landlocked, not having access to a port. What do you think are the economic and strategic trade implications, being that you're an economist? And second part to that question, what is your main message to the world, to those who oppose a free Khalistan, knowing that you worked so hard to help liberate and bring into the fold many other free nations?
Yeah, thanks a lot for the compliments, but I really had a lot of effort in the last 30 years to encourage independence, and also to encourage to join the institutions which we have built already post Second World War: NATO, the European Union, OSCE, OECD, the World Trade Organization. These are wonderful organizations, and they are fair, and they are just, and they bring prosperity and they work. And that's also because it's always the argument that we are aggressive towards Russia. No, we are not. Nobody is really pushing for countries to ask them to join and to try to get them in. No, it's these countries' people, and they are democracies. They see that it's a better life possible once you have a regulated framework of security and prosperity and of the law. And this is what we have built in the European Union out of a disaster of a continent that we have been with World War I and World War II and the Cold War. We have really managed with American help and guidance, and to develop a decent life here. And this is a role model which is also possible for other continents. The question about economic and landlocked, I want to answer like this. In the past, it was always a big story to have access to the sea. And it's not bad to have access to the sea, but it matters much less because today logistics are a bit different. And it's an argument against which is used by your enemies. Yeah? Always tell them, also Austria has no sea, and we are one of the richest countries in the world. Also Hungary, also Slovakia has no access to the sea, and as well one of the richest countries in the transition economies of Europe, and very successfully. So you have to be aware. There is a lot of counter narrative, especially in Khalistan is basically an enemy project for India and also for China and also for Russia, obviously. And they have a lot of media power. And so they will always talk you down. So you have to have a good case in the media arena, and you need also to think what kind of economic future you want for Khalistan. Here comes the more important. It's not the access to the sea which decides about the prosperity of nations, but it's what kind of currency you will have, yeah, and to which currency you will align it, yeah. Do you want to have a disaster currency going down, devaluation continuously? Or do you want to have a currency like the US dollar, like the euro, like the Canadian dollar? And do you want to be part of that system, like actually India was until 1966, part of the British currency system? But then you dropped the rupee because you hated the British, and then it all came a disaster, actually. Yeah? So you want to have a good currency. You need also to be part of a good trading system. So then you have to decide, do you want to have a free trade agreement with the European Union? I say yes, that's a very good thing to have. It works with over 70 countries in the world, and we have a fair and just way to do that. And that's basically one way you can also argue. The other thing is what kind of a governance system you want to have. Regulated like on European level, or do you want to have a corrupt kleptocracy like Russia or some of Tajikistan? Yeah, if you say to the world, we want to be like Tajikistan, and many people will say, oh no, we don't need Khalistan. But if you say you want to be a part of OECD, of OECD, you want to be a market economy, you understand how Canada works, many of you live in Canada, and you want to copy the Canadian model for Khalistan, that will be much a different talk. And then also your perception in the world arena will be much more different. Then you can say we want to have low taxes. My recommendation is always low taxes, that you want to have a good governance system like we have it in the West. And then people will look at you and say, they even have an economic plan for the future. Oh, we should really take Khalistan very seriously, because they are really seriously thinking about joining the World Trade Organization. They understand that they want to have a free trade agreement with the European Union. They have even thought about the tax system. We must take that Khalistan movement more seriously. And that's my recommendation. And don't listen to any propaganda about landlocked or not, because you can make transport treaty and customs treaty with your neighboring country, and it will be just fine. And, the world is organized according to WTO standards, and you will be member of WTO. That would be in the founding manifestation. I would recommend that very heavily, to write that into your political manifesto. And suddenly everybody will understand, wow, they have really thought about it, and they will more easily support you.
Thank you, Gunther.
Thank you very much, Gunther. Thank you very much.
Kuljit, thanks. Before I go ahead to Kabila, I would like Jatinder, would you like to add anything in it? The currency system, the trading system, the governance system.